Welcome back to the Two Months Podcast, sponsored by Low & Co. in Fort Saskatchewan. I'm your host, Joshua Marshall. We are powered by Go Goat Sports. We have our co-host here with us. This is Phil Stockley. Phil, how's it going?
Going pretty good. Pretty excited for this one. So I'm not going to say too much.
All right. And we have a good friend joining us. He's a two-time Stanley Cup champion. He's going to help steer some conversations with our big guest today. We have Mike Futa back with us. Futes, how's it going?
Everything's great, Josh. Looking forward to this guy.
Yeah, this will be a fun. And we have Trevor Ruptash with us too. He's joining us as well. He's one of our co-hosts. So we'll kind of won't ramble on any longer. Everyone's here to listen to our interview with Paul Bissonnette, Biz Nasty. So let's get to our interview with Biz right now. Muds fans, this is our biggest guest we've ever had to date. So we're pretty happy to have this guy on. So he was drafted in the 2003 draft by the Penguins in the 4th round. Just the best draft you probably ever had in the NHL history. So that was pretty sweet. He also won the Hlinka Gretzky Cup in 2003, and he also won the Calder Cup in the AHL in 2015 with our buddy Futes. We like to welcome from the Spittin Chiclets podcast and Big Deal Brewing and NHL on TNT, Paul Bissonnette. Biz, how's it going?
That's a lovely intro. Now, what's this Hlinka Cup, though, that I supposedly won?
Well, they renamed it because at the time it was called the Hlinka Cup. And then now they renamed it to the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. Did you win that or no? Or
no, but I'll take the accolade. I never won shit. So any idea where that tournament takes place? Can I take credit for it?
It takes place in Slovakia and Czech. They go half and half, Slovakia and Czech Republic.
Okay.
That would have been your year that I was coaching you. So I know for a fact that we didn't win it because it was Canada game year.
Okay, so you know what it was though is I'm sure they probably still do it. Is they would have we had under 17, which was they would divide the provinces, and then I partook in 2 under 18s. So there was a summer one that I went to.
That one?
That was in Piešťany, Slovakia, and then
that's the Hlinka.
Did you win it? Yeah, we did. I didn't know it was called the Hlinka Cup.
Called the Hlinka. So put it back in the resume. He's got it.
Jesus Christ. Okay. All right.
Did you get a gold medal, Biz, or no?
Keep in mind, there's a lot of CTE here, so there's probably a lot of other things you're going to mention that I have no recollection of.
No worries at all.
Okay, good to know. It's called the Hlinka Cup. Jesus.
Yes, Hlinka Gretzky Cup now. So,
all right.
It's a pretty sweet tournament, obviously. But yeah, I looked at it. It says you have a gold medal next to your name on Elite Prospects. So
okay.
Where's that gold medal? Because it's
good. Now I feel like an idiot. And a couple stories from that tournament. It was the first I actually signed a woman's breast. That was the first time I'd ever done that. It happened in the Czech Republic. And a few of the fathers went over, and beers were like 10 cents. So my dad was completely shit-faced the entire time we were over there, as you can imagine, Futes.
Well, I'm glad that you I had you the year before, so I'm glad you waited a year before you started signing breasts. I appreciate that, Biss.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, another one too is Dion Phaneuf made the team, and I was the only guy still on the team using wood sticks. And the first practice I go out there, we get to I think it was in Slovakia, where our home base was. We ended up going to play I don't know if it was Braclav. That was the other place. Yep. And so we get on, you're buzzing around, you're doing your laps, and I take my first shot, my stick breaks. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Don't think anything of it. I go to the bench, grab my other one, skating around, take a shot, my stick breaks. And then I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I start looking around. There's Dion Phaneuf just giggling with the other guys. I only had 9 sticks I brought over, and he sawed 2 of them to fuck with me the first day. So luckily I was able to survive the rest of the tournament. But that was a good little prank that Dion Phaneuf played for team morale right off the hop.
Yeah, what a beauty he is too. So that's a guy that I would love to hear on your guys' pod. I know hopefully you guys get him on one day.
At some point, yeah.
That's exactly. Let's toss it over to Futes here. Your connection with Biz, and Futes, you've been on with us over 10 times now, and the relationship you and I kind of built here. But the great brotherhood that you have with Biz here, and like cool moment you guys had at SportsCenter at a trade center on Sportsnet the other day, when the trade deadline was happening. So how cool was that? And kind of talk about Biz here.
Well, Biz that one he just pulled out of his hip pocket because it got a little emotional. It wasn't planned and scheduled. So it was a very touching moment for me. But this obviously is a special guy. I coached the 1985 born, that would have been the year you're talking about, Biss. It was every 4 years they do a Canada Games instead of a World Under-17 Championship. So we were Team Ontario, and I was head coach. And our team, we had Mike Richards, Anthony Stewart, Nathan Horton, Corey Perry, Jeff Carter, Brad Richardson, and Biss was at that time he was the top defenseman in Ontario, defenseman. I mean, and I actually went to junior B right. I think I brought Danny Siverett and Kyle Quincy in because there wasn't a heavy year. I think there wasn't a real heavy year on the back end. All the top Canadian defensemen other than Biss were really I would have been Phaneuf's year. They're all out west, weren't they? They're all,
oh man, they were stacked.
But
Team Alberta.
Yeah. The one thing I remember about, and I certainly wasn't a great coach, but I could a pretty good orator. And I literally, these guys, it was like insider trading for me because they just listened. They had that old school burn in their eye that sorely you look for that in players now. You find it in the odd player, but this entire group had it. And for me, it led to down the road having a pleasure. I ended up going on to be the general manager in Owen Sound, and knowing what Paul Bissonnette brought to the table. He was captain in Saginaw at the time. I told our guys, we've got to trade for this guy. I mean, I don't want, the story goes on a little bit, but bottom line is, knowing Biss and who he was, I had done a little, I think the word, it rhymes with scampering, to talk to Biss off the air about that I was approaching him, and his general manager at the time was holding out for another second-round pick, and Saginaw came into town, and Biss decided to pay a visit to my office. And their general manager caught wind of that visit, and I had to give up that second-round pick.
Oh, yeah.
To get Biss. Biss never got back on the bus to be a.
That was an expensive conversation, wasn't it?
Very expensive conversation that we had, but well worth it. And then, you go through these things, and when you realize, first of all, forget how hard he worked at the sport, and to be able to make the NHL is a thrill, to play games and do it the hard way he did. I get a call, and obviously he's one of the best teammates I've ever been around. And that's why, when you see how much support he gets, what he does now, he's just an unbelievable teammate. And that means whether you go to battle, I mean, he was the initial, you talk about Phaneuf, he's the first guy ever to drop the gloves and play for real at a Don Cherry.
The top prospects game.
Top prospects for
who did he? Marc-Antoine Pouliot. He killed him center ice. Killed him.
Jumped right in with defending a teammate that's not even a teammate, and that's the kind of player he was. But roll it back to when I'm in, my coach from Owen Sound, Mike Stuthers, is in the American League, and Biss is winding down. He's starting up the Twitter and pumping it out, and he's winding down on with Phoenix, and he calls me and says, "Futes, I want to keep this going for another end of the season." And I went into Dean Lombardi's office and said, "Listen, I want us to sign Paul Bissonnette." And he was like, "Isn't he the tweeter?" And I'm like, "He's more than a tweeter." He says, "Well, if you can convince him to shut down his Twitter account, I'll let you sign him, and you can rejoin him with Mike Stuthers." And so Biss shut down the account, came in and met Dean, and went down. And once again, we wouldn't have won the Calder Cup without Biss. And he was like a second assistant coach to Mike Stuthers. And for me to see it come full circle, and for me, it was kind of cool because from that under-17 team, I got to go on the ice with Mike Richards and Brad Richardson and hoist the Stanley Cup, right? And Jeff Carter twice. And then to see Biss get handed that Calder Cup ring at that dinner, and how emotional and how truly him being a champion and being able to, retire a champion, it was really emotional, and it couldn't have happened to a better teammate. So that's my story on him.
Wow, that's a lot of tummy sticks going on here.
Well, then he turns around.
I'm going to get emotional.
And he becomes the voice of. I'm terrified to go on Spittin Chiclets because I know the path that it would go down. I'd never get back in the national.
You'd be giving up another second rounder.
Well, everybody's proud of what he's become, and again, I mean, there's certain kids that they're not kids anymore, but you're proud of every aspect of what they become, and he certainly is one of them.
Well, yeah, I always go back to that time. Like, I mean, of course, we have a long history of feuds. Like under-17 was awesome. You mentioned that tournament, and that was like that felt like the big leagues to us, right? Playing against Team Pacific, Team Alberta. You mentioned like the players that these guys had, and back then, like the internet wasn't that prevalent. So you kind of heard about these guys like they were William Wallace, where I think the one team had Seabrook, Coburn, Phaneuf, and these were like grown men, right? So that tournament, and that was obviously a special moment. Getting to play for you and Owen Sound was incredible. But I always go back to that time in Manchester, because I had finished my NHL career and I couldn't get a contract. And luckily I ended up signing a PTO with Arizona's farm team in where were they at the time? In Portland, right?
Yeah.
In Portland and on the East Coast. And it just wasn't really working out there. And before I'd even gotten that PTO, I was on my couch for about a month after my time in St. Louis at camp. And I was like on a full-on depression, because all of a sudden you go from playing and you're on a team and you have all this camaraderie where that's livelihoods just stripped from you. So when I got that PTO with Portland, yeah, I was like somewhat back to normal, but I also didn't feel the fact that I was gelling with the team and, wasn't really having a good time. And the minute I got let go, I was right back into that dark place. And I never forget. I called Futes and I was like, Futes, I'm in a tough spot. And he goes, let me see what I can do for you. And he called me Lombardi, and I'll never forget. He called me back. He says, pack your stuff, come on over, but stay the fuck off of Twitter. And I said, you got yourself a deal. So just from going to the start of that year where I was curled up in a ball on my couch in Welland, Ontario in a full-on depression, and to all the way through that year. And that's bullshit. You guys still would have won the Calder Cup, but what like you and management and that organization and Stutzy and those players like did for me as a person, I'm forever indebted to you guys. And it was such a magical run. It was so fun. We had so many unreal players, and it just really like it turned my life around, to be quite frank. So like I said, I'm forever indebted to you, buddy. I love you, and I'm you'll forever be a friend of mine.
That's beautiful.
Hey, Josh, I got to give, I won't go on. I got to see if he remembers this story, because it just brought back something from our under 17. We're playing against Pacific, and they're the visiting team. So we're supposed to win the ceremonial face-off. And this kid, they put the red carpet out, and this place is packed.
Oh yeah.
We got our starting five on the blue line. They got their starting five. And I tell Nathan Horton, and Pacific has won every draw, even when they're not the home team. And we're the home team, and they wheel this kid out in a wheelchair, and they've got all the piece beside him for the ceremonial face-off. And I tell Nathan Horton that he's got to win the draw. So Hortz goes in, and they literally drop the puck. And this kid's in a wheelchair that drops the puck. And they do like a 30-second puck protection battle drill, cross-checking each other, just going at it. And then finally Hortz cross-checks Seabrook, turns around, and takes a slap shot back. Our guys almost have to duck, because he wins it and shoots it so hard back towards our end. And when you see it on tape, you got to see the look on this poor kid in the wheelchair. Is this thing's going on right in front of him? And then Hortz comes over to me and he goes, Phew. I go, that boy, Nate. He goes, I can't start. He goes, I'm exhausted. So I couldn't change the starting lineup. So we had to go out and basically crumple off the first base after the national anthem, and then just come over the bench and change it up, because he was so exhausted from the ceremonial face-off. But
oh yeah, I'll never forget that. Puck was behind the goal line.
Couldn't
even hand it back to the kid.
No,
just ready. The guys were barking at each other.
We hammered it into the corner. But
we could have played that game without a puck. Guys were just taking runs at each other. It was very intense. That was in Selkirk and Stonewall.
Yeah,
was where they hosted that one. So
that's when I found out what Mike Richards and Corey Perry were made of.
Oh yeah, the worm.
Yes. All right, Rupper, I'll toss the puck over to you here.
Hey, Paul, pleasure to meet you. Honestly, you guys are sitting around here telling stories, and I don't even know. I'm not the biggest sports guy, so I had to actually Google who you were. That's why this was kind of
That's no problem, buddy.
Yeah.
Asking me whatever. It doesn't even need to be hockey related.
No, I know. And like, this is kind of the first picture that came up, and I kind of text Josh. I was like, man, this is the kid from That 70s Show here. I didn't even know we were interviewing this guy. Anyways,
this is his stick. This is his stick. So we had the goal they played for the Oilers, the E-Bug, that Matt Berlin throughout last year. So we had him on. And then Rupper joined in and he goes, who the hell are we interviewing? Like in the middle of the interview, the poor kid was just like, whoa, what's going on? So
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes going in blind's nice. It makes
Exactly.
you a little bit more curious.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. I know who you are. That
Oh,
kind of
no
flew
worries,
over your
buddy.
head. That kind of flew over your head there. It's I think you're pretty soaked from the last golf.
It's been a
with
long
the-
week, buddy. It's been
Yeah,
a long
buddy, I
week.
can tell you. How was that? You guys were pretty soaked there. Holy Jesus, you and Whit.
Yeah, it was a pretty wild week. I mean, like I said, I got a text from a buddy who wanted me to bring the whole situation to light, and I had no problem doing it. Like, we let it fly on our podcast. I guess I'm a little naive to the amount of steam that I was unaware that it was going to pick up, and it just went a little bit nuclear. And we talk a certain way on our podcast, right? Like, I was joking around about the throbbing dick pics in the phone, and like,
Sure.
but in the same breath, it's like, you don't know what someone's going to have on their phone when you go through somebody's phone that doesn't know you're going to go through their phone. So just after kind of hearing I guess the disturbing story and the fact that it was still going on, I was like, okay, well, yeah, I have no problem. But before I even, like, if Whit wouldn't have teed me up on the last pod to mention it, I would have forgotten to mention it until we were doing our season breakdowns through the division in which Columbus is in. I believe they're in the Central now.
Metro.
Metro. Geez, that's how much I know about hockey right there, boys. Yeah. Shouldn't even be on TNT. But so he teased me up, and then I kind of just went on my little rant, and that was that. But once again, the only reason I brought it up is because a past player had that exact situation had happened to him, in which I described, where this wasn't a family sharing family photo situation. This was a flex of power, trying to see what was underneath and getting to know what the guy was up to so he could abuse that power if he wanted to. So it took on a mind of its own, and it kind of played out the way it played out. And throughout players hearing the podcast, more and more text started coming through as to like what he was actually doing. And it ended up just, behind the scenes coming out that more stuff that was probably a lot worse ended up coming out as well. And I think it was time that he stepped down. So it's been a crazy week. Definitely not. I don't know how journalists do it all the time, because it is a little bit stressful, especially in the fact that when they started denying it, people were assuming that I was lying or fabricating the situation. But the truth came out, and it's a privilege to be able to coach in the National Hockey League. And I understand that some people might have the view of like, oh, these players are so soft nowadays. This doesn't have to do with, I played for Stutzy. Stutzy. Nobody enforced accountability and hard work more than Mike Stothers. And for that, I love him. I look back now and I'm like, that was a reason he turned me into a man with ways that didn't have to be done through mental manipulation and fucking with his players. You knew exactly where you stood with him. If he didn't feel that you were working hard or paying enough attention or caring enough about the team, he would call you out in front of the team. But and not in a way that was unfair. Not like the Mitchell Marner situation by having him throw his teammates under the bus and then bringing it to those teammates, where those type of mind games were being played and the power dynamic was being flexed. And I think that now that the story is out there, I think everybody's aware that he didn't really change as a person in the 4 years that he was forced to take time off, when I think we all know that the reason he was fired in Toronto wasn't just because of the lack of production from a coaching standpoint, but because of what he was putting a lot of the players through. Not even rookies and young guys. Like we could go through Hall of Famer Chris Chelios, Hall of Famer Mike Modano, Mitch Marner, Franzen, the list go. Jason Zetterberg, Jason Spezza getting sat his first game in Toronto because he felt that somebody else brought a little bit more to the penalty kill. Like, let's call a spade here. And
so what's I guess another question for you two guys is, it's 2023 and guys like this are still getting hired in the league. Like, there's guys in the A that I think deserve a shot that are probably a little bit more player friendly. Is it comfortability? Is it their records? Is it their experience? Like, why is it, such a problem that they're still, bringing this stuff to the forefront?
I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. I think there's definitely going to be a shift. I think there has to a certain degree with teams giving younger coaches a chance and going a little bit off the board. I mean, like maybe not off the board. Like Bednar had success in the ECHL, the AHL, and then finally he was able to get his opportunity. Yeah, I just hope that moving forward that these GMs and whoever are in charge are doing more of a due diligence period and giving people who have had success at lower levels an opportunity. Because like you could like Feuds, you can even attest to this. Like football might be a different situation where there's so many different like plays and you know, offense and defense and a bunch of video because there's so many of like hockey for the most part is fairly basic. Like there's only so many forechecks you can do. There's only so many breakouts you can do. There's only so many you know, offensive zone structures or offensive zone face-off plays you can do. Like it's not that complex. You know, there's a lot of hard work that goes into it and there's a lot of studying the opponent, but it's about the players. It's about inspiring the players and then putting a fairly basic system in place and then letting these guys flourish. So for people to think that it's like, oh, it's all coaching, like it's such like I think it's not to overlook it, but it's in the grand scheme of it all, it's a pretty small dynamic when it comes down to it. Especially from an X and O perspective. Am I wrong here?
No, 100%.
Look, now, Biss, you got like you just been on a bench. You've got like it used to be. You had a coach in the middle. Sometimes the coach changed the forwards, and then you had a coach on the D. And now it's like there's the student ratio on the bench is like there's like 6 coaches on benches, and then you got coaches. It is overcomplicated, and it is unfortunately or fortunately, it is still a buddy club. Like I mean, guys get hired, and then they hire friends and people that have had terrible track records, like you see about the guy that was Bill Peters, what he went through, and now he's back. You know, Babs, there was no chance Babs was going to change as a person. I mean, there are nice stories out there, like a Timmy Montgomery who, you know, who had it wasn't that he was a bad person, he was an amazing person, but he had a battle with addiction, right? So he beats the addiction, and now he gets another opportunity. That for me, I'm okay. I'm fine with that.
Absolutely.
I'm fine with it. But if you're an abuser or just a bad dude and you keep getting recycled, I have a problem with that. And I mean, I'll use Daryl as an example because Daryl's a wonderful human being, Daryl Sutter. It takes a special type of hockey player. And I think he's probably a more grizzled version of what Stutz is because he makes men players.
I don't think that he didn't adapt.
He didn't adapt. And that was a difference coming back in LA. Our dressing room was stacked, and that was part of going back to our 85. Like it devastated me to have Dean come in and say, we got a shot at Mike Richards, who I knew was they throw Captain Canada around. He was a Captain Canada, but I knew Mike Richards from that 85 tournament we were getting. So when you move out a Shen or a Simmons, it devastates you, but you know what you're bringing in. Our room had arguably Jeff Carter, Justin Williams. Jarrett Stahl, we probably had 12 NHL captains in there that when Daryl did his thing, they could handle it.
Right.
And they knew what his purpose was doing it. Now
they were mentally strong and they'd built that credibility up where even to the point where I heard that they were doing like at certain points, they were having closed door meetings where it's like, hey, he's being a fucking asshole. We're doing this for the guys in the locker room, which, hey, however you want to motivate the guys, but to your point.
But he knew what he was doing, and there was a plan. Now he goes to Calgary. They don't even have a captain named, and I'm not knocking the guys in Calgary, but they got steamrolled by the old school Daryl Sutter, and because they didn't have the same makeup in the room to be able to handle what Daryl brings to the table. Now last year, I think he got off his rock a little bit with some of those press conferences, but the bottom line is that today's athlete, you've got to bring in young coaches that can really identify them because there are only so many systems, but you better be able to communicate and show these guys that you care about them, or they're not going to play for you.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, good point. I would have paid to get in the show and coach some of those teams Babs was coaching. I mean, it's literally Detroit, the Olympic team. I agree with you 100%. I think, you know, a lot of coaches could have went in there and won in that situation as well. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just shocking. It's shocking to me with kind of all the stuff that hockey in Canada has been going through for a while that they'd even give that consideration to hire him back. But
just going back to Daryl too, if Daryl saw you when you were walking in along Manhattan Beach, he'd like stop and have a conversation with you and like talk about your family and stuff. Like,
Sure.
like
And
he wouldn't
he
be,
wouldn't
he,
yeah, he
he
knew
wouldn't
your
be asking to
family
go
and
through your
wouldn't
phone,
ask
read
for
your
your
text
phone.
message. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so as you know, and we said the same thing about Torts, right? Like Torts has his style too. And I feel like he has adapted a little bit more, but at least you know where you stand. Like if he's not happy with you, he's going to tell you and be frustrated with you, but he's not going to abuse his power, at least in my opinion.
And I heard that from Torts, or not from Torts, but from players too. That's been under Torts. Like, love the guy. People want to play for him. Like, you know, like he can get tons out of a player, and you know, some guys that doesn't mix with, that's fine. But you know, just going on to your point, he did adapt. He's still relevant, right? Like he has changed. You know, he's not. Maybe he is kicking garbage cans around still. I have no idea, but. Yeah, I don't know. It's
As long as he
and,
ain't kicking the players.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
no,
He can kick the
yeah.
garbage is all he wants.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
gonna go
agreed.
after him. The Players Podcast will go after him, right? So
Yeah. Hey, one more question before I hand it back to Josh here. You know, you're let's talk social media a little bit. I don't want to get on. I know you had a tough week last week, but you know, your claim to fame, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to carve you up. You're a bit of a ham and egger. You're a bit of a ham and egger in the show. When did you? What made it click? What clicked for you in social media? Because if you're looking at, like, say, the athlete and you know, who maybe was the first. I'm not trying to pump your tires or nothing. Maybe a smidge, but you were kind of the first athlete that I can recall that kind of took to social media and, you know, converse with the fans, converse with the base on social media. Is it something that you just picked up early? Is it an easy transition being a fourth line guy, you know, being the great teammate that everybody says you are, that, you know, this kind of just transitioned into nice, like, easy for you?
Can I say something real quick? Best. It's because it's who he is. It's who he is. And I mean, I'm telling you, it's an easy answer, but I swear to God, if you saw this guy in a locker room or at a Halloween party dressed up as the coach, this was a natural transition. He's a hilarious guy. He's a hilarious. So I find the most successful people are the guys that just are themselves. And I mean, this is.
I appreciate that.
It's so it's hilarious. I mean, I used to listen to Stories Through the Wall, and I was just shaking.
I mean, ask Don Maloney if he thought it was funny when he was the GM of the Coyotes. Having a call, I'd get pee whacked like at least once a year for the antics I was pulling off.
Oh well, he's that different. I don't think. I wouldn't want to. I don't think he's been on the yuck stage in his career. He's a little bit.
Well, I mean, I also was doing shit that was, that was a little offside, and I mean, we could get into. Yeah, exactly. I was a lot younger. I guess it just it was fortunate timing. So I'll never forget. I think it was on ESPN or Sportsnet, whatever it was, and I didn't know what Twitter was. And Charles Barkley was like, this stuff is nonsense. Like, I'll never go on social media. So when I read that, I think I had a pre-existing notion that it was dumb and I would never join it. So Twitter had started and you know, people started tweeting. And then I played with Scotty Upshaw in Phoenix, and he kept persisting me to start it. He's like, oh, you should jump on this and like just be silly and do all this stupid shit that you do. And especially because I was a fourth liner, it's not like I had to like dial it in and worry about power play, penalty kill. I was a healthy scratch half the time. So I just kept pushing it off, and I'm like, nah, it's stupid. Like, I don't even get it. What's the point? So finally, I was so bored after summer training one day that I actually downloaded the app to see what it was all about. And then I just started going on it. And then it just took on a mind of its own. And at that time, and especially as you guys know, like hockey players, like they're pretty reserved guys. Like they aren't going online to spew their opinion. They just kind of fall in line and they shut up and they do their job and they wear their suits, show up to the rink and, you know, have at their business. And it kind of caught fire. And because I was playing in Arizona, I think I ended up getting the leash in order to do it. But before I ended up getting to training camp that year, as it started catching fire, I ended up saying like a sorry communist back to the Soviet when Kovalchuk's deal got rejected. And it was stupid. It was it wasn't a racist tweet. It was more like prejudiced, I guess you could call it. And I'll never forget my agent calling, and he goes, "Hey, dude," he goes, "you need to get the off of Twitter," kind of like Dean Lombardi said. He goes, nothing good can come of this. So I was like, and he goes, he goes, for stuff like this, they could like rip up your contract. So I was like scared shitless. So I deleted it. Now I get a call like a week later, and it's our PR guy with the Coyotes. And he goes, "Hey, like, are you telling everybody that like we made you delete your Twitter?" And I'm like, "No." I go, "My agent called, and we were scared about this little thing here because people were coming after me for saying." And he goes, "Okay, well, like people think that it's us. Like maybe we could work out a deal where when you get to training camp, you start it back up, and I just monitor your tweets so you're not tweeting stupid enough stuff to where you're going to get canceled."
Yeah.
And I said, "Great, perfect." So that's why that's what originally my first Twitter was Biznasty. That's why it ended up being Biznasty 2.0.
Yeah.
It's because I revamped it, and people were like calling the team, threatening to cancel their season tickets because they thought it was the team who told me to get offline.
Wow.
So we ended up rebooting it, and as I said, and Feud said it's more of my personality, and it was. I would get home from the rink. I wasn't married. I didn't have a girlfriend, well, at least most of the time. And I just would tweet and interact with the fans, some of which were coming at me, calling me a plug from other fan bases. And because I play with the Arizona Coyotes, I'd be telling these people, like, I'd be like, "Shut the fuck up," and like chirping their profile pictures. And like
The best.
original days, it was off its rocker.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like if I was
Yeah.
saying this shit nowadays, I'd be done. I wouldn't be working for TNT. I would have never got a job with the Coyotes. I'd be sitting here with my thumb up my ass begging Futes for a job on a men's league team.
So
But,
basically, they didn't want to lose those 50 season ticket holders.
yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Hey, you watch your mouth. Yeah. Yeah. At that time, they were really struggling to get fans, but it also came at a time where the team started doing good, and it just all really took on a mind of its own. And with not only with the tweeting aspect, it started opening up other opportunities where I would get asked during All-Star break to go to do something for Sportsnet where I would be in front of the camera. Because as a result of the Twitter, more of the Arizona media would come up and ask me questions about sometimes not even hockey related.
Yeah.
So they were just starving for any type of personality that would be willing to put themselves out there. And I didn't look at it that seriously because I was in an Arizona market. Even when I was saying dumb shit, nobody actually really cared. I was going on this radio station for weekly hits called KUPD, and they would get porn stars on. And they had this girl named Bibby Jones come on, and they ended up hooking us up to go on a date. Well, sure enough, I ended up going on a date with her, and we had sex. And during the whole time, like somebody was calling her phone, and she was like answering it and stuff, and it was her boyfriend. So it was such a bizarre interaction. So I think that she then before she leaves, she asked to take a picture, and then she's like, "Hey, post this," and I'm like, "Absolutely not."
Yeah.
Well, I think nothing of it. Go to bed. We got practice the next day, or actually, sorry, pregame skate. And that night, I don't think I was going to end up playing anyway because I was off in a healthy scratch. We're playing Chicago, and at that point, we're trying to win the division, and we're battling for a playoff spot. Well, this porn star goes on the local radio at like 7 a.m. live in studio. He's got a small horn, bad performance. I'm getting a call from the radio station trying to rebuttal. Meanwhile, I'm driving to the rink worrying about a game with playoff implications here, and I'm getting carved by this porn star. So this whole social media thing is just kind of getting all wacky, and as I mentioned, taking on a mind of its own. So it was crazy days, and obviously it has led to the career that I have now. But I'll never forget those early days and how wacky this shit turned into and how fun it was. But now it has to be taken, I guess, a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
And I know I got off the rails there, but this is just the type of stuff that was going on early Twitter days and early social media days.
Yeah.
And the stuff that I was able to get away with that ended up So all these people from the Valley, not even hockey fans, started following me. And that's why the follower count out of no time ended up getting to 1 million followers.
Yeah, those were the good old days. It's like the wild, wild west when Twitter first started. I've left the app. I can't, honestly. It's too tough. You can't say anything.
It's in a bad place now.
Yeah,
it's not that fun anymore. And if you say anything, oh, I'm offended. So it's like, oh fuck, here we go.
I just Instagram. That's all, right? I just swipe. I got enough models on there going that the wife is not too happy about it. You know what I mean? So, anyways, you know what? Yeah, it's not a big deal. You know.
I think it is. You want to talk about it?
No,
we have a little therapy session here.
Yeah, couch time's fun.
This guy's cranking it out on his couch to Instagram models. His old lady's in the kitchen cooking dinner. She's like, "What the fuck are you looking at?"
Get out your phone. Get out your phone, Rupper.
Yeah. Anyways, honestly, it was a pleasure to meet you.
Great meeting. I wish I would have got your joke off the start there, but
not
a lot of people do know who I am. So I was like, oh, no worries, buddy.
No, it's not a big deal. Shitty delivery, buddy. Shitty delivery.
It's all good. Biz, you probably got a bone to pick here with Rupper still, though. Yeah, so I'm a big Leaf fan. You're a big Leaf fan. Rupper does not like Austin Matthews at all. So when he signed,
what do you mean?
Oh boy,
yeah.
What's not to like?
Yes, Rupper. What's not to like?
You don't like a guy who averages 43 goals a year throughout the start of his career, who puts just as much effort into his defensive play as he does his offensive play. Yeah. Analytically, one of the best defensive forwards in the league. But before he got hurt last year, halfway through, he still might have finished as the league leader in block shots for forwards. We're talking about a guy who puts 50 goals in the net blocking shots.
Come on, Rob.
So, Bosco, why don't you tell him the whole story? Like, you're just giving him half truths here. You came on. And
was your old lady getting after it on Instagram to his pictures? Is that why you don't like him?
Bosco won't even give the whole story about what happened and why this got into the way it went into. Is Bosco tries to poke us, right? He's like pokes the bear. So
let's hear why you don't like him.
He comes on the chat and this is what he says. He goes, he's a top 5 goal scorer in the NHL. Or no, you said the best goal scorer in the NHL right now. I said he's not going to be the best goal scorer in the NHL till Ovi's gone. And is that fair?
So Biz,
is that fair? Yes or no? I don't. Hey. Yeah. I just want yes or no. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So that's where this went. Then it started going off a tangent. Then I started calling up all the guys still in the show right now with more goals than Austin Matthews. I said, you can't come out there and say he's the best goal scorer in the NHL today. Will he be one day? 100%. And I agree. I didn't get into blocking shots and whatever Biz is talking about now. Like, is blocking shots huge? But this all stemmed from goal scorer, the best goal scorer in the NHL today.
Yeah, I think he's the second best goal scorer.
Yeah. Ooh.
So this is
right now. This is right now as it stands.
Yeah. So like when Ovi Biz, when
what is there? There's a guy named Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah, he's a great goal scorer too.
Yeah, no, I mean that's fair. Matthews did have a hand and wrist injury coming into last year. The year before, he did win MVP and led the league in goals. But yeah, okay, all right. So let's put him definitely top 5 goal scorers in the league year over year.
Okay, I'll submit to that 100%. Okay. I will, But the original thing is he said he's the best goal scorer in the NHL today, and I said, and
so that's why Bosco was saying that you don't like him. So he is. Yeah.
So then he starts picking. Now he starts stirring the pot, and it's not a big deal, right? But
all right, Bosco, you need to clean it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah. So the reason why I went with that stat though is because when Ovi at age of 25, 328 days into his NHL career. With Matthews with the same thing, age 25, 328 in days. Ovi has 301 as for NHL goals, and Matthews has 299.
299
off the pace of them. And he has 35.
So it's a C hair. We're talking about a C hair, man.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think he's trending in the direction. Maybe there's an argument he's not there yet, but the thing is here in Edmonton, it's
the throne will be handed over shortly.
Exactly. That's the whole point. So
Yo, does Ovi break Wayne's record if there's no lockout and no COVID?
For you're saying for Wayne, or you're saying for
does Ovi break that record?
Ovi will still break it.
Yeah, he will. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm just saying, like, I'm positive he could have broke that record, say 3 years ago, if there's no COVID.
Well, I mean, Wayne also probably went through some lockouts too, right? So
yeah, I think he went through one. Was it one, Bosco?
Yeah, I think he went through one.
When he won the 99ers, remember those guys went over to Europe and toured around for a little bit?
Yeah. So
Philip, do you ask questions on here?
Well, I'm waiting my turn. I'm being patient, Biz. Like I'm
You are
just
patient.
kind of
Holy
waiting.
shit.
Hey, Philip,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I always tell these guys, I'm like, these guys aren't here to listen to you. They're here to listen to the guests. So shut up.
Philip
I
usually can't shut up. That's the problem.
So Phil
Oh, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it here, Biz, because I got a bone to pick with you too, bud.
Oh God, here we go. What did I do now?
Go ahead, Phil.
So I'm a Flames fan.
Yep.
I live in Edmonton, and that's hard enough. And
Oof.
you know, like last year was a tough year.
Yeah.
And then I got to listen to your podcast, and I got to hear you say you're jumping off the bandwagon.
Yeah, I didn't like the way that things were headed with how they were being coached, and I didn't like the energy in the locker room. And then I was hearing other stuff too, and I'm like, I'm jumping off this ship.
Well, I was
4 teams. I don't need to be loyal to any of them.
Well, I was
Other
thrilled
than the
with their
Leafs.
year last year. Hey,
You were?
like, come on, not a chance. But you know, like you know, having Biz on your side, like it's kind of like you know, we can get on there and kind of give Whitney a hard time because he's like so in love with the Edmonton Oilers
Well, I
and
was the
living
year
in
before.
Edmonton.
I was the year before. There
I know.
are some positive things though. I think that Calgary ends up getting a wild card this year. Going back to last year, most 1-goal losses since like 2010, 2011 Florida Panthers. They had 31 goal losses last year, 17
Yeah.
of which in overtime and shootout. I would imagine that their goaltending is going to start trending in a better direction. And if it's not coming from a Vladar or Markey, they got that Wolf kid. I guess the question mark too up front is like, is Lindholm coming back? Can they re-sign him? What's he going to demand as far as a contract? But they also have a lot of pending UFAs. Like they got like their whole core group. They got what, Killington or Shillington? Is that how you say it? Shillington?
Shillington.
Yeah.
They got Zadorov, Tanev, Hannafin. Like most of
tons of question marks, eh? Tons of question marks there.
So I don't know. And they got Huska in there. I don't know a ton about Huska. I think that Savard, who was he was obviously an offensive presence when he played and a very intelligent hockey mind. I would imagine that him running the power play and his connection with Huberdeau would help Huberdeau get back to where his production was closer to the season before last, where he was over 100 points.
Yeah.
If they can just start getting more consistent offense and they can keep where they are defensively with better goaltending, I think they're right back on track. So I have a lot of optimism for the Calgary Flames for this season. I just think that the Darryl situation really overshadowed things, and him kind of pushing harder didn't help the situation. In fact, made it worse last year, where, hey, if that's his style of coaching and that's all he knows, that's fine. But if you're a one-trick pony and you can't adapt to your new personnel, especially because keep in mind, they lost their two big guns in Gaudreau and Tkachuk, who'd been there for so long. And then they bring in three new faces. They brought in Kadri, they brought in Uyghur, and then Huberdeau. So sometimes that first year there's a, and then even the way that it kicked off, like Huberdeau was dealing with, I heard, a high ankle sprain or a leg injury coming into the season. So right off the hop, he's struggling a little bit. He goes down the tunnel to get treatment. And then Daryl's asked in the media, like, well, where did Huberdeau go? Oh, he went to take a shit. It's like, this is your new guy. You got to maybe stick up for him. Try to ease him into it, make him feel a little bit comfortable, where that just wasn't the case. And he completely shut down. And by the halfway mark of the season, he got a 100-point guy playing 15 minutes a night. So just nothing was working last year, including coaching, including what they were getting from the players. The players' confidence was shot as a result of that. Markey wasn't himself. Vladar was doing okay for a little bit there, but it wasn't sustainable. Then he started playing poorly. So it was just a shit show, and the room was divided because they'd seen the success from the year prior to the way that Darryl operated, to where I think the writing's on the wall till we know why Johnny Ham and Cheese and Tkachuk left. Like, we had Tkachuk on our podcast, and he pretty much said it without saying it. He was just fed up with his antics. So we are where we are, and hopefully the new coaching staff brings a more positive attitude and a playoff picture. So I think was that a good breakdown for your fucking Calgary Flames? My fucking wrists are sore from fucking stroking them off. You happy now?
I am happy. Yeah, you downhill skiing with the Calgary Flames there. Yeah.
A little fucking. Put the
no, but you know,
on.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's all I'll say about the Flames, and the seat on the bandwagon is always there for you, bud. So
How about you worry about the city paying for the fucking cement and the sidewalks for the new rink, as opposed to
hey,
jumping down my throat? You should be hitting up the local city council, not coming at me for jumping off the bandwagon. The minute I heard they wouldn't pay for the new arena, I said, "Fuck this! I'm out of here."
There you go.
all right, now that I got you all fired up, I'll give you a little.
I'm like
I'll give you
Rupper
a little
getting all
sugar.
fired
I'll
up.
give you a little sugar now. So a couple of years ago, I paid some cash to you to do a cameo for my brother Tim.
And
I asked you to get him to quit smoking. I don't know if you remember. You probably done a million cameos, but
yeah, I don't remember that, but I was probably hacking a joint while I was doing it. So
yeah, well, you said that, so I just wanted to report that Tim has quit smoking.
Nice. Round of applause, boys. Come on here, everybody.
Yeah,
Good for Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah, you threatened Finnegan to rip his nuts off, so he.
Okay, the dog.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's awesome. Tell him congratulations.
There you go.
I'm sure he'll be listening to this. So.
Okay, great. A little shout out.
So I'm actually gonna do the Too Much Text inbox, brought to you by CDN. So this is just kind of quick questions from some fans.
Let's go. All
right. So these are like 30 seconds to a minute answers.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to go in too deep.
Good luck.
All right. Marissa wants to know, what are your thoughts on the PWHL? They had their draft yesterday. What are your thoughts on women's hockey?
Oh, I'm gonna forget the name, but an iconic woman in sports kicked things off for them. Was it Billie Jean King?
Yeah.
I think that they're doing an exceptional job. It's heading in the right direction, and they finally have like a predominant league for these women to go shine. So it's awesome to see. You have Sarah Nurse playing for her hometown. Like, there's just a lot of good storylines going in, and like women's hockey, the like how competitive and how good it's got over the last 10 years. It's accelerating at a rapid pace. So I'm happy that they have a place for these girls to shine and also be paid a fair salary. I was always on board with even the NHL, and I understand maybe early on, much like the WNBA, it's not a profitable league, but with giving them some assistance early on, it could get to a place where it is to where these women can be paid fairly. And from my understanding, it's at that place now, and I think that it's going to continue to shine. So great for them, and congratulations to them for having that draft and that big iconic moment for the women moving forward. So kudos to them.
Hey, next question. Great answer. Cam wants to know, is there a favorite interview you've done on Spittin Chiclets?
Oh God. I think the one I laughed the most at, and it was live, it was done with Tim Stapleton. And I think it was the first time we'd really had somebody on from the KHL. And he's such a good storyteller. And he was telling us these insane KHL stories. So I would say from an early stage, he was an iconic pod, because it also brought us to bring on more guys who'd played in the KHL. Like, we just had John Morasti on, and he was up there, but it's hard to pinpoint one. I will say that there's one that we did with a former teammate of mine that we somehow, one of the guys who was responsible for like editing it, we lost it, but it was done with Ray Whitney, and I play with him, and he's seen so many phases of hockey where he grew up in Edmonton. He was Wayne Gretzky's stick boy, and he played and seen all these different eras of hockey. And unfortunately, it'll never be aired, and we lost it. But that was one of the best hours and a half I'd ever spent on the pod. But unfortunately, it won't see the light of day. So that's I mean, my 30 seconds is up, I think.
No,
plenty of other guys too. Wayne Gretzky, obviously, huge name. We'd hope to get Brett Hall on. That would be great.
Yeah, we had Bob Stauffer on the other day. He's been on with us several times, and we were told we were going to have you on, and he goes, Wayne loves biz, like just loves.
He's a beauty. I love him. He's so funny.
Yeah, he's a beauty.
His memory and his storytelling ability about all this stuff that has happened in the past. He's like a hockey encyclopedia.
Yeah.
He just loves the game so much. So even before his time, like, he would ask the legends, like, Gordie Howe and Guy Lafleur. And so he just has so much depth and knowledge about everything that happened even before his time. And like I said, he's just, you sit down and you have a couple pops with him, he just rattles off these stories left and right, like he doesn't skip a beat. So every time I get to spend with him, I cherish it.
Phil, you got some more there or one more?
Nice. Yeah, I got Jason's got a 3-parter here really quick. I'll just read through it and then just give me your thoughts. So he says, who do you think is the toughest guy in the NHL right now? Who's the toughest guy you ever fought? And are you disappointed to see fightings become almost non-existent in the NHL?
I think I'm okay with the place that it's in. Like I don't think guys should be lining up off face-offs just to do it. I mean, if it went back to that, I don't care, because it's, it's entertainment, but for the neurological and for the health aspect of it, I'm okay with like I said, the place that it's in now. I would probably have to put Revo at the top, but there's about 5 guys there that are circling around that heavyweight spot. So I'd say it would be easy to put Revo. And then who else did you say toughest guy I ever fought?
Yeah.
I mean, probably for me, Jeremy Yablonski in the American Hockey League. I had to fight him twice in one game because we didn't really have a true heavyweight, and I was just kind of starting in that role when I got called up, and the writing was on the wall when they changed me from defense to forward, and he bambied me both times. Like, he knocked me out both times. So I think he was on the juice at that time. I don't think they were testing in the American Hockey League, and we just introduced those new dry fit skinnier jerseys, and he would come out, he'd come out for warm up, and his face would be redder than a tomato, and the jersey would be like this around his neck because he was so fucking jacked up, and he'd be skating around like drooling, and I'd be like, oh my God, like, this is the guy that I got to fight tonight. And sure as shit, it was in Binghamton, and he fucked me up. So that was the toughest guy I ever fought. It was in the American League, not the NHL, but that was where a lot of the tougher customers were in the American Hockey League.
It's funny because when I told Johnny Boychuk I'm going to have you on, so I was like, you have a question? And he just replied back with a YouTube video of you fighting him in Arizona.
Yeah, when he was with the Bruins.
Yeah, that was his first NHL fight. He said,
"Oh, was it really?"
Yeah, he's like, ask Biz why he tried to claw my eyes out. So,
did I? Yeah, anything to win, man.
Yeah, you did him good. His brother's message back to me. He goes, yeah, you just got a speed bag. So
yeah. I was usually the speed bag, but I hope I answered those correctly. Is that it? All 3 of them?
Perfect.
Okay.
There's just one more, and this will take quick. Derek wants to know how tired are your shoulders from carrying Witt during the Sandbaggers?
How tired I am?
Yeah.
Fucking Witt's been carrying me the last couple. He's the best drunk golfer on the planet, but yeah, I don't know what to expect from sandbagger to sandbagger with the swing that I have, but those videos have turned out to be fun and just another way to get guys' personalities out of them and show the fans. Like that Getzlaf Bieksa one, I don't know what it's at now, but we just dropped it less than a week ago, or I guess a week now. What is it, Tuesday?
Yeah.
6 days ago, and it's already we had 352,000 views on it. And we introduced RA to this latest one where he was a drunken maggot just getting buckled on the course. And it's everybody in the comment section is just talking about RA and how big of a drunk he was in that one. I think it threw them off, and he helped to take us home.
That's awesome.
Hey,
Give yourself some credit.
Hey, Biss, remember when you made me laugh thinking about, was it the night we did the Sportsnet thing that we were all sitting there? It was because you mentioned Bieksa. We were eating dinner at Soto, and Drake walked in.
Oh yeah, that was wild. That was wild. And then
that just
it was Bieksa, Getzlaf was there. We had Colby Armstrong, and then all of a sudden, Drake walks in, and there was a guy in the back corner. He's a famous guy from Toronto. I think he's a gangster. I think his name's Billy. He's known as Billy. And Drake comes in and he's waving to the back corner, and we're right beside there. And Colby Armstrong kind of props up, and he's like, and he starts waving back to him like a little schoolgirl, like, hey. And then like you could see the look on Drake's face, like, nah, dude, not you. And we felt like the biggest bunch of losers the rest of the meal. Even I kind of perked up, and I'm like, hey, I think he's waving at us.
Like, I think Drake knows us, and then we realized it was the guy behind us.
It was the guy behind us.
Everybody just buried their heads in the sand.
Yeah, that's who he was waving to. But yeah, I know that was That was a awesome deadline, man. That was so fun. And even the next night we got to have a couple pops afterwards. So
Yeah.
some good times.
Yetsy was at that too. That's why we're thinking of it.
Yeah, yeah. That's where we probably lined it up.
Yep.
All right, Phil, you have anything else?
Yeah, so I've been doing this with all of our guests lately. You know, I'm not really into food at all. I don't eat too much, but you know, we've been asking our guests lately,
Get Futes in this
and
one.
this segment is brought to you by Central. Yeah, we'll get Foots in this too. So this is brought to you by Central Social Hall. There's 3 locations in Edmonton. You can check out. Like we did this with like Bosco did this with Noodles a couple weeks ago, and they talked about like chicken fingers for like 20 minutes and the best chicken fingers in Edmonton. So my question, I'll ask Foots and Biz, like on the road, where's your like go-to go and get some grub?
Oh man,
Oh,
that's
God.
brutal for me. I asked this
Like a place that you like look forward, like, okay, when I'm going there, that's where I'm going to eat.
You know what's a good staple in Canada, Futes, is Cactus Club.
Oh,
You can't go wrong with Cactus Club.
Yeah.
All day. They got great drinks, great food menu. The food's clean.
great
you get help-
atmosphere.
Great. Oh,
Waitresses
I,
are
I was
okay.
talking about the food, Futes. You could take over from there.
Just you know what? Well, after hearing your horn story, I'll leave that alone. But I'm just no. There's just some places that are, for me, it was unbelievable because Dean Lombardi wasn't big. He liked to go to like, I introduced him. He liked where you had a professional waiter, like a place like Zorro's or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Like, but for me, it was amazing because Blakey, those guys. If I found the guys that were players, and I mean like NHL, like the hall, they had certain places that they just knew about that just blew me away. There was a place, for example, it's in Montreal, and it's an old woman's prison that's been turned into a iconic Italian restaurant, and they just bring out like I remember the lady coming out of the kitchen. I remember this place, and I wish I knew the name of it, but it's literally in an old prison, and they bring out a hand menu like a billboard of today's dishes, and of course me, not knowing the history, everybody 80% of the hockey players at a table usually want chicken parm, and chicken parm isn't an Italian dish. And I ordered chicken parm, and the lady came out of the kitchen and just fucking lost it on me about ordering chicken parm in an Italian restaurant. But you know, bud, there's steakhouses coming out the wazoo. There's some steakhouses like Mastro's and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And was it you I asked about where you eat in Chicago or something like that the other day?
Yeah, Gibson's was a staple there in that Viagra Triangle there. I forget what the area is called. It's by the Sutton place. But
The one thing, like this will get you, but I mean that league, and that was one of the biggest adjustments for me because these guys, they're players, right? Like thank God Dean gave us time to work out because it's like the never hungry league, right? These guys get fed.
They eat like gods.
Fed after the game, before the game, the pregame meals like going to a royal wedding. The stuff that they'd cart out for, and the amount of food that's left over. And then
it's
after
nuts.
the game, they get it in the room. Then you get on the charter, and another menu comes out.
Yeah.
And if you're not working out, Phil, you know what? I know you said you don't like food.
You could eat yourself out of the league. Especially for a healthy
so much
scratch like
food
me.
if you don't have time to work out. It's crazy.
Awesome. Is that it, Phil?
No, you bring her home, Bosco.
All right. I know we got to get you out of here, guys. Just one last thing. We are based in Edmonton, Biz, so just maybe you get a quick rip on the Oilers here because all the Oilers fans that we have here will probably be mad that we didn't ask you about the Oilers.
I think they look really good. I think that they're probably looking at a top 2 finish in the Western Conference this year.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest concern for me, if I was an Oilers fan, is how are you going to get contributions offensively and relieve a little pressure off the top 6? And we're so much so where you don't have to play the ace of spades every game. Like Connor and Leon playing 25, 26 minutes during the regular season just to solidify your playoff positioning. I don't think that's a healthy place to be because you get burnt out come playoff time. And I don't think that helps sustainable success, especially when you get in the second, third round when you're playing against better teams where they know how to lock these guys down. So you're going to need a bigger team push. I think the back end's great. I think that Darnell Nurse will have a great bounce back year. I don't think he was necessarily terrible during the regular season, but he was also playing injured during the playoffs last year. So they got Bouchard locked up at a great number. And if he keeps doing what he does offensively, I think that the goaltending, I think Skinner is probably going to take the reins and solidify himself as the starter, and he'll have an even better year. So I think that the next 3-4 years is going to be their window to bring home a Stanley Cup. They have to, right? And after what they learned last year and the message that Connor had after the season, I don't know if you guys have heard this, the rumblings. Basically, it was everybody be here ready to go by September 1 in the best shape of your life. And if you're not, we're going to have problems.
Yeah.
And that starts at the top with Connor and Leon, and they set the precedent. You see how they looked at the BioSteel camps. They are coming in with vengeance. And I think you look at last year for that series against Vegas Golden Knights, like that was the Stanley Cup Finals. Like that, I think whoever wins that series goes on to win the Stanley Cup. So if they stay healthy, I think they have the tools in place. Yeah, the only concern I have is the amount of ice time those guys are playing to carry that bottom six. And if they can contribute and figure it out, I think they can hoist themselves a Stanley Cup.
Right on. That's good. That's kind of a good way to finish up. I know before we hit record, we talked about, a charity that you kind of work with and you've helped out before at the NHL Awards and donating money to the Ben Stelter Fund. I know Fuchs is very connected to the Amazing Grace Foundation too, and out there. So we're going to donate, 50% to one charity and 50% to the other charity in your name, Biz, for joining us.
Thank you. That's such a classy move by you guys. And I've been talking with Mike.
Love that, Josh.
Yeah, that's such an awesome move. And Mike's struggling a little bit right now too with his own personal health. And I'd love to send a message to him and just wish him well. And such an unbelievable guy carrying on his son's legacy. So I hope he gets back to full health, and he's doing an amazing thing. And hope the Oilers can take it home for him to bring his spirits up.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Biz, for joining us. Really appreciate it. Everyone, enjoy. Have a good week. Stay safe. Stay humble. And we love you guys. Ciao.